Well, hello everyone. My name is Jay Berkowitz, and today we're here to learn the secret algorithm, how to get to the top of search with Google Screen. And if you're not familiar with Google Screen, or if you're just trying to figure it out, basically these are two boxes that appear right at the top of a Google search. And essentially these are grabbing about 30 to 40% of all Google searches now. Grabbing, what I mean is they're grabbing the lead. So in this search for car accident attorney, about 30 or 40% of all the clicks are going to these folks. So you want to figure out the secret algorithm. You want to figure out how to get in the top 2 or 3. So this is what it looks like on a desktop. Of course, the 2 here, and then there's 3 across the top of the desktop, and only 2 show up on a mobile phone. So let's get into it here and explain the rest of the search. Google Screen right at the top. Then the ads, these are the traditional Google ads. There could be as many as 4. Google Maps, Google calls it the 3-pack. We call it the 3-pack. So your opportunity to show up here, very valuable. This is your first free or SEO opportunity because you pay for the screen, you pay per lead, you pay for the ads, and these are free. And then this is the old traditional SEO. This would go down. There would be 10 per page as there was in the first days of Google. Why is this so important? I call it 10 golden rules. Golden rule number 10, lead the trends. And essentially, when I wrote that concept 18 years ago now, we learned that if you figured something out before all your competitors, you had about a 6-month window to grab the market opportunity before the rest of the market, before your competitors. And sometimes only a 2-month window or a 3-month window. So getting in on Google Screen, getting in these top 3 positions, figuring out the algorithm today, and being in those top 2 or top 3 positions could mean the difference between 200 leads and 2 or 3 leads a month. And these are great leads. These are paid per call. So you're only paying if somebody searches, car accident lawyer or divorce attorney near me or litigation attorney New York. The very precise phrases and practice areas that you want to target. So without further ado, let's get into the presentation. Oh, and by the way, one of our clients got 319 leads in a month. So here's proof positive this stuff really works if you can grab those top positions early in your category, in your practice area. So my agenda for today, why am I qualified to talk about this stuff? Then we'll get into how to get started with local service ads or Google Screen. Google calls it local service ads. I think most consumers now see it as Screen because it's got Google Screen as the consumer-facing branding. We'll talk about the secret algorithm to get in the top 2 or 3, how to manage your live leads, and then some advanced strategies, advanced tips. We'll close it out. So why me? I come from one of the coldest places on earth, Winnipeg, Canada. Probably looks a lot like that today. And Winnipeg's the home of the Grey Cup champion Blue Bombers and the Winnipeg Jets hockey team. And my wife, Bonnie, and I, we got smart. We moved down to Boca Raton. Here's Bonnie and our little guy, Parker. And we hang out in the sun most of the time now, much more preferable to Canada. My background, I started my career, I was able to work at ad agencies and in marketing. I was a director of marketing for Coca-Cola. I worked at Sprint as a director of marketing in the very early days of the internet. So it was the first days of getting our customers emails, getting our business customers their first websites. I also worked both at the ad agency and as a director of marketing at McDonald's restaurants. And at McDonald's, we sold some of the most delicious, fantastically tasty, high-fat foods in the world. And I went directly from selling this delicious stuff to eDiets. And eDiets was a startup diet company. And we were able to grow this startup to $60 million back in 2002 and 2003. So at that time, I had a unique opportunity. We were spending about $40 million on banner ads on AOL, Yahoo, MSN, again, the 2002, the very early days of the internet. And after that, I wrote a presentation for the Direct Marketing Association called the 10 Golden Rules of Online Marketing. And I really took a chance back in 2003, and I said, here are the 10 core strategies of internet marketing. And I'm proud to say, that it's become my book, my company name, my blog, my podcast, the brand 10 Golden Rules. But I'm proud to say that 10 Golden Rules has survived the test of time from a branding perspective. And those core strategies are still the core strategies we use for our clients today. I've written 4 books, and my 5th book is coming out this March called Internet Marketing for Law Firms. I speak at conferences all around the world about marketing, digital marketing, and I give one of the most prestigious awards in the legal community called the Millie Awards to the top digital agency at this conference, this big conference every year. Our agency, 10 Golden Rules, does award-winning work, and we work with some awesome partners all around, I guess, North America now. Brands like Law Tigers, Jeff McDonald, Stewart & Stewart. These guys are commercial lawyers, and these guys are trust and estate litigators. So we cover the gamut for all kinds of lawyers. We also work with some other folks, some professional services, but our real focus is legal. And one of the things I'm most proud of is the hockey stick. This is the shape of a hockey stick in my Winnipeg Jets. But of course, from a business perspective, we use the term hockey stick to represent the blade of the stick, and we really want to achieve the shaft. And we've done this over and over and over for many, many clients, where we're able to grow the website visitors. These guys started out with 2,000-3,000 visitors. They're in the 9,000s. And they start out with 20-30 leads, and they're in the 200-300 leads every month. A lead is a call, a form fill, or a chat. And we'll talk about that as we go through today. So without further ado, let's get into Google Screened and local service ads. And I'll share with you today the secret algorithm to get in those top 2 positions, the all-important top 2 or top 3. So quick background, what is Google Screened? Well, as I said, it's these top two boxes in mobile. And the beauty of this program is you pay only for qualified calls. So pay per click, PPC, these paid ads down below the screen that Google's had for pretty close to 16 or 17 years now. Those paid ads only get you a click to your website. But the difference with Google Screen, the new program, you pay for a call or you pay for a lead. You can also get text leads. You pay for only the lead. The person doesn't have to click to your website and then decide whether or not it's going to be a lead. And you also can dispute non-leads. So let's say you're a family attorney and you get a call for a real estate deal. And you might refer that out or whatever, but you don't want to pay, $50 or $250, depending on your market, for that lead. So you can dispute that lead, essentially reject it. Google, for the most part, is going to accept that, and you're not going to pay for that. So you're only paying for those qualified leads. Google calls it local service ads or LSAs. So a lot of people are calling it LSAs. Exactly the same thing, right? The consumer sees this Google Screen check mark. And when you log into your back end, it's called LSAs. Now, these are above the ads, they're above the maps, they're above the SEO. So that's why they're so important. And there's a history to these things. For 3 or 4 years now, Google has had another program. Basically, it's the same program, local service ads. The consumer has seen a check mark called verified, and that's been for plumbers, air conditioning guys, locksmiths, anyone who could come into your home. And those firms would get verified by Google, included background checks of all the employees. Still, that program's still in existence. But the consumer's been trained now for 3 or 4 years by Google, where there's a check mark at the top of the screen and where there's 2 or 3 boxes, Google has done something to authenticate those firms. Now, when they launched local service ads for lawyers, professional services, it's also for financial consultants and real estate right now, they called it Screened. So that's why there's a little bit of name confusion, but essentially we're going to call it Screened today for the most part. And it's a different platform from the ads platform. So you have to sign up, get screened, and sign up on a different Google platform, the local ads platform, to show up in these boxes. You can't run it through your Google Ads platform, which of course, Google has a tendency to confuse things a little bit. And like I said, there's 2 boxes on mobile, 3 boxes on the desktop. You only pay for a lead. Now, the beauty of it is you get a lot of calls. And I'd say 90% of the program is all about phone calls. And of course, 50 or 60% of people now are using mobile to search for you. So they got their phone right there. There's a call button. They can click to call, and you can include a lot of information, pictures about your company. They record the calls for you, and you get a great lead database on the back end. Why are calls so important? Well, we find that across law firms, professional services, for the most part, a little different for like a big corporate firm, but for the most part, calls convert way better than form fills on a website. So we see that on average, about 24% of calls convert to a case. And in the middle there is the chats, the little chat box that pops up on the website. You should have that because some people just can't call. Like if their kids are homeschooling and there's like 2 streaming classes in the background, and they're not going to talk about their aunt's car accident case on the phone, but they'd be willing to chat with you, but they really don't want to give you their email because it's like their aunt's case. It's not their case. So chats are super important too. But for the most part, we want those phone calls. Those phone calls generally can convert to a case, and they're super important in the secret algorithm I'll share with you in a few minutes. So first off, how do you get screened? If you haven't done it, again, golden rule number 10, lead the trends. Even if you're in a small market, some of the markets didn't even offer Google Screen until very recently. So you might have a tremendous opportunity in your marketplace. We were looking at one yesterday. There was only 3 people in that market screened. So if we can get our new prospect, or hopefully our new client, approved, they'll be one of 4 people vying for these top 3 positions. Of course, we'll execute on the secret algorithm. We'll get them registered in that marketplace. So you want to get started. If you haven't done it, simply go to ads.google.com/local service ads, like we see here. Maria, if you don't mind, maybe pop that in the chat. And then you're going to go through basically 4 steps. We'll talk about those. First thing is you want to get a new Gmail address. I promise you 1,000 times over, do not use your existing Gmail because you're going to want to use that Gmail to have your team log in to the local screen, and you want to keep it separate. And Google connects things, and it seems to confuse the local service ads platform. It's getting better. It's better than it was a year ago when we started doing these for law firms. But I would recommend definitely you want that new Google account. And then, you need your firm name, you need a real cell number, a birthday, and then you're going to save the password. And then you might share that with an agency such as ours, and then we could complete some of the next steps. So you also need a whole bunch of things like your legal business name, how many years you've been in business, your address, how many years you've been at that address. You need your full name. Obviously, you need credit card info, address and hours and firm photos, and what your geographic service areas are and your practice areas that you want to target. And you'll need a current bar license, which is actually good news. You always needed that as an attorney. Probably same thing for real estate and financial. But the good news is you used to have to get screened by a private eye. An old, it was actually Pinkerton was like one of those old, Sherlock Holmes kind of private eye companies. But they've done away with that for lawyers. And all you need is a current, a state bar license, which was required before, but it simplifies the process a lot. And then the final thing, some states will require proof of insurance. We were just doing a bunch in Connecticut, and they needed proof of insurance. And Google will assign you a new Google Ads account. So it's actually run on the platform, the Google Ads platform, but it's a little, you'll get a new one, a new number and a new ads account. So don't confuse the two. Okay, so now we're set up, you're approved. Still takes 2, 3, 4 weeks, depending again on the state and whatnot. Used to take 6 or 8 weeks with Pinkerton Security. It was getting pretty slow. So I guess that's one of the reasons why Google streamlined it. And so now you want to manage the live program. And maybe the most important thing outside of the secret algorithm, and this is, I guess, part of the algorithm, is you got to get in and disposition leads. And that's a fancy term. I don't know, I always use it, but basically you got to get in and tell Google, these are good leads or these are bad leads. And essentially when you book a meeting, so it's like, it's the same, it's the old terminology from the air conditioning guys and the plumbers. When they booked an appointment, that would be determined to be a good lead. And when they archive something, it would be something irrelevant. Like let's say the plumber got a call and it was for air conditioning, and he doesn't do air conditioning. So he would archive it and say, look, don't send me air conditioning calls, only send me the plumbing calls. So the most important thing is training your team, and we'll be happy to show you how to do that. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but essentially you got to get into the program and you got to say if the leads are any good, because this whole thing is run by artificial intelligence. It's run by a brand new big Google algorithm. And so you've got to let Google know if somebody searched like car accident lawyer and they showed them an ad, and you're a PI attorney, you want car accident leads, all day, every day, you want to say those are good cases. Now, one mistake people make, and do not make this mistake, is let's say the person was in a car accident, they were injured, they were hit by another party, the other party doesn't have any insurance, and you don't want to take that case. But you've got to still tell Google that was a good call. I want more leads like that. You got to pay for those leads. Do not make the mistake of not paying for those leads. It's a serious mistake, because you're telling the algorithm, hey, don't give me calls when someone's looking for a car accident lawyer. Don't give me those leads. Absolutely, you want those leads, right? So how do you do it? Well, you can actually listen to the calls. So it's great if you've got someone like the leader of your intake team, whoever's in charge of taking the calls and coaching the team and working with the intake team. Get in there, listen to those calls, and immediately disposition the leads within 24 hours. There's not a lot of gray area on this. You can't get it going a week later and do a mass, archive on anything that didn't turn into a case. Like that kills programs. And I've actually seen programs, getting 50, 60, 70 leads, and then someone goes in and says, okay, all these guys were not cases. I'm just going to archive them all and not try to not pay for them. You are hurting yourself. You've got to pay for the good leads, and you can listen to the calls, and you can stream along here and skip a little bit, make sure it's a good call in the right practice area. And then you're going to archive or book, as I talked about, and there's the little 3 dots here, and you can dispute. So let's say that the person, Google, the artificial intelligence is actually listening to these calls. These calls are all recorded, and like the person hangs up, and like even before you answer. For the most part, like 99%, Google is going to say, you have not been charged for this call. So you could just archive it. But let's say you are being charged, that Google is charging you, and you did have a conversation with these folks. And like I said, it was the example of the, litigation attorney, and someone's calling for, they want to go to law school or something. They want some advice. You're not going to pay for that lead. So you're going to click the dispute button, and you want to put a note. You always got to put in a note. Like this one, this was a recorded spam call from Scammer Busters. You want to put a note in there so that and you can track it, and Google sees it. Again, it's going to be read by the artificial intelligence. Very few of them probably go to an actual person. So you click that 3 button, the dispute comes up, and you go in and do a dispute. Now, if a lot of you were on the version of this webinar we did about 9 months ago, hopefully you're up and running, you're doing real well, and maybe you fell out of the top 3 in a desktop or the top 2 in mobile. And so you're here today to learn the secret algorithm. So let's get into it. And we're going to start back in the Ronald Reagan White House. And there was a rumor that they had a red phone in the White House, and it was the middle of the Cold War. And whenever the Kremlin called, someone immediately picked up the red phone. So that's where the term red phone comes from. But it's just as important today. It's almost like you're in a Cold War. You got to pick up that phone, because the algorithm is rewarding you for answering the phone quickly and not missing any calls. Matter of fact, it's tracking missed calls. And we've learned from our Google representatives that if you don't answer the phone within 15 seconds, there's a good chance that you're being seriously penalized by the algorithm. Now, think of it from Google's perspective. Somebody goes on their phone and they search for a car accident attorney near me. The 2 boxes at the top, or the 3 boxes on a desktop, or the Google boxes, they click to call, and you let it ring and ring and ring and ring. Now, Google is giving up some very valuable real estate there. So you're probably going to dispute that call because the person hung up, and it cost Google a tremendous opportunity to sell that lead for $75 in a small market, or $375 in New York is the most expensive one. New York, LA, and South Florida, pretty expensive. So you've got to make sure that you're answering the phone and not getting any missed calls. And it's like, this is not even an option. Like, don't get in this program, particularly if you're in those bigger markets and you're bidding $5,000, $10,000 a week to be in the game. You probably can't spend that much money, but you've got to bid a lot to be in the game. You're kidding yourself if you're in the game. I met with a large law firm this week, and they're like, "Oh yeah, it's great. We're getting 2 or 3 leads a week." And it's like, you guys are way down the page. You're doing very, very poorly. You're absolutely not performing, and you follow this secret algorithm. You've got to get in the top 2 or 3. At least get in the game. You've got to answer the phone. You've got to take this seriously, because you can't really be in business and give up 40% of the market opportunity without doing a few basic things that you can do. The second thing is, you probably want to have 24/7 availability. Again, you're not dealing with a person, you're dealing with a mathematical algorithm, and you don't want to, your ad to show up and you're not, it says you're closed, and literally that happens at night. You want to make sure that you're available 24/7. You're telling Google, look, we're serious about this. Anytime there's a lead in our practice area, we want those calls. Now, this is the newer thing that we just learned from the Google reps. You have to have 1 to 2 new reviews per week. So the game used to be, we used to think it was a little bit more about having lots of reviews. So the guys with 200-300 reviews or 1,200 reviews we used to think those were the ones who were getting favored in the algorithm. But what we found, we signed on a client with a brand new location in Miami, very competitive market. And he was able to reach out to all his old clients and ask them to do a review for his new firm and his new Google My Business, and his new, ostensibly the Google My Business transfers the equity, the reviews, to your local service ads platform. So the Google reviews from Google Maps populate your local service ad algorithm. And so he reached out, he was doing it himself. So every week he was reaching out to 5 or 10 of his old clients, and every week 1 or 2 of them would give him a great review because he'd gotten them a great result in the past. And the thing has worked fantastically, and he's gotten about 60 cases in the last 6 months just from the Google reviews and Google Maps platform. So the very important thing is to figure out a review program to get those reviews on a regular basis. So if you haven't done it already, and you're in professional services and many other categories as well, highly recommend Birdeye. Birdeye is a review platform. It was created by 2 brothers. One of them worked at Google, one of them worked at Yahoo in the Maps, and they really understand the review platform. They built this tremendous facility for you to send out a link, and then people can easily walk through the Google review process. So highly recommend Birdeye. The next thing is, you want to develop incentives and contests. Now, one of the mistakes we made in the past relative to the current algorithm is we would encourage our clients, okay, we want to do a gift certificate program. And you cannot incentivize the customers. You can't incentivize your clients. You can't give them the gift certificate. It's against Google's terms of service, and they'll shut your whole maps down, your LSA, everything, if you get caught. So don't do that. But what you can do is incentivize your team. And in particular, the legal assistants, the paralegals, the case managers, the folks who are on the front line with the client, who really become the brand of your firm. If you give them like a $50 restaurant gift certificate, $25 if you're in a smaller market, $100 if you really want to crush it out. Give them $100 for every 5-star review you get in the form of a gift certificate, and make it a little bit of a game. So somehow we want to now spread this out. When I said I made a mistake, we asked a firm to do this program, and it was tremendously successful. They got about 40 reviews in the first month, and then about 10 reviews the second month, and then 1 or 2 reviews every month after that. So a smaller firm in a smaller market. What you want to do is you want to spread this out. So you want to say, hey, look, we want to get reviews, and the first 2 every month get a $100 gift certificate. The first 2 every week get a $100 gift certificate. And so you encourage the paralegals to really spread out the opportunity. Then you want to track it over the period of a year. And one of my friends did a great job with this, and he created a contest throughout the year, and every gift certificate came with a drawing for a chance to win $1,000 at the company holiday party at the end of the year. So you want to create a contest now that stretches it out, keeps the team incentivized and interested to make sure you're getting 1 to 2 new reviews a week. And then the best idea we've had in the past year or so is what I call the VIP club. And what we're doing is we're reaching out to past customers and saying, hey, you're in the VIP club. And this is awesome. Like out of the gates, one of our clients in the last, 8 or 10 weeks has gotten about 30 new reviews, and it's working really well to get the 1, 2, 3 per week. So if you want to find out about the VIP club, give me a shout after this webinar. So next thing, we talked about this earlier, really important for the algorithm as well, to designate those leads within 24 hours, and then selecting high proximity locations. So part of the algorithm is proximity. So if somebody's on their phone and they're within like 5 or 10 miles of your firm, you've got a better chance of coming up in that maps and in maps and in local service ads. So if you're selecting new locations, or it's even serious enough that if you're not locked into your location and you're thinking, hey, we might move one day, it would be hugely advantageous for Google Maps and Google Local Service Ads to move to a location where a lot of your prospective customers are. A lot of law firms traditionally are located downtown. A lot of the best customers are located in the suburbs, in maybe not the fanciest suburbs. So you might not want to be where you live if you're a successful law firm. You might want to be closer to a lot of potential customers where your customers geographically are located. So you want to pick a new location or even a satellite location that's closer to those folks. Let a couple people who live in those areas work out of that office and come to the main office once a week. But it's a tremendous opportunity to get that location. Now that location's also going to have to get a lot of reviews too. And then the final thing, this is a subtle thing, but we again extracted this from the folks at Google. You got to make sure that your credit card can accept the silent ping for the amount of money you're bidding on. And I'll explain how this works. One of our clients has 6 locations in one state, spread all throughout the state. And you want to bid a lot on, you want to bid like $10,000 or $5,000, like way more than you'll spend, and you'll never spend it that much. But you want to tell Google, like, I'm gonna max bid whatever I can in this region. And so when you set up the max bid for 6 locations, let's say it's $5,000 a week, that's $20,000 a month times 5 times 6 locations. That's $120,000 a month. Now Google's going to do a silent ping on the credit card to say, can this credit card accept $120,000 in the next month? And so to play at that level, you've got to have like an Amex Black card that can accept that ping. Now, a silent ping is like when you sign up for a hotel and they say you don't need to make any payment at this time, but the room will be, the first night of the room will be booked, 1 week in advance or whatever. The hotel does a silent ping on your credit card just to say, is this credit card active? And can we charge, $150 for that first room night? So they're sort of quietly asking that. I see some questions coming in, so we'll get to questions right at the end. And the final, so that's it. That's the secret algorithm. Answer calls, super important. Don't have any missed calls. And you'll see on some of the reporting now, Google's showing missed calls. So you've got to be super diligent in working with the team on not missing any calls, except for the calls that you miss when people hang up. And there is going to be 5 or 10 of those, depending on how many, what volume you're playing at, because people hear the recording, and there's a recording that Google says they're recording the call, and those some people freak out and hang up or just hang up for whatever reason. But those don't count, and Google doesn't count those against the algorithm, of course, because they haven't even talked to you. You haven't even had a chance to answer yet, because it's just in the Google recording. So answer calls super quick. If you need to, put a red phone, like literally, in the office and make sure you're getting those calls. 24/7 availability. Tell the algorithm, I'm here. we're taking these calls, we're taking all these calls, give us as many of these great leads as you can. 1 to 2 new reviews per week. So you've got to develop a program that's both structured to get you those reviews and to reach out to the past customers, and also stretches it out. So you don't want to launch this program with a lot of cash incentive and get like 50 reviews and get all the past clients in 1 month. You've got to try and spread that out and get 1 or 2 per week. You want to designate all leads immediately. So booked or archived, select high proximity locations, and ensure your credit card can handle that ping. So the final section here, some of the advanced tips. The first one is you've got to have precise data. And if you've been to a couple of my other webinars, if you haven't, they're all available on YouTube. You'll hear me talk about this over and over and over. Business intelligence comes from data. You need precise data, precise tracking. On this document, we have the budget spent by month. We have the number of leads. We have the final cost per lead. So we just calculated that. We divided it. So these guys are getting leads for like 160 bucks. The disputed are calls that we're now disputing. So we started tracking that. We started tracking our projected return on disputed. So our budget before disputed calls, then how many got archived, how many signed clients, and the cost per signed case. So we're getting, it bounces around a little bit, but somewhere between 300-400, which is great. For a car accident case, this is a very expensive market. And we're also now tracking the missed calls. So you need this kind of precision because you're dealing with a mathematical algorithm. This is not like Google pay-per-click where you can write different ads and use different landing pages and pick different keywords and different bidding strategies. This is pretty straight up. You got a max bid if you want to be in the game. You got to set a big budget, and you got to answer the phone. And then you got to give the algorithm the feedback on the disputed calls. If you don't have the precision data, you're not tracking it, you're really not playing to be in those top 2 or 3. If you're there now, chances are you're going to fall out of the top 2 or 3 because you got to do this right. The next thing is you want to audit your intake department. And I've talked a fair amount about that today, but develop a concerted program where you're meeting every week. You've got some data, you're going through the data, you're listening to some calls. Even if you're the senior partner in a law firm, in a big law firm, listen to some calls, get in there, coach the intake team, have someone like the intake lead responsible for that weekly meeting if you're not there, and really coach them up. Great. This should be a part of any practice. You've got to make sure that you're not missing out on any case opportunities. The next advanced strategy here is something I've learned, and I've been doing this, as I mentioned, for about 20 years, and Google's been around for about 19 of those 20 years. The advanced thinking that I've learned is that when Google introduces like a new product, they link the algorithms to the core algorithms. So like when YouTube came out, when Google bought YouTube, and they started creating YouTube search algorithms, when people search on YouTube and your video would come up, we saw a linkage that if you created YouTube videos and optimized those videos and connected those videos to your website and embedded the YouTube code and put those videos on your website, we started to see a rise in SEO. And when your SEO was working and your videos were showing up in SEO, your YouTube SEO results, getting traction on YouTube, was also improving. Same thing with SEO today, regular search engine optimization listings, and the Google My Business or Google Maps listings. When one of our clients has a really good month, like this is an example down below, when their free traffic from their organic is coming up, their Google My Business is performing really well. They're getting lots of indirect queries, lots of calls, lots of leads, lots of people checking for directions. So all the factors that you can measure on Google Maps, the two seem to run together. And like in the middle of COVID, when everyone's SEO was down, the Google My Business traction was down. So I firmly believe that the Google algorithms are linked together. So I'm suggesting that the local service ad algorithms And the results you get in local service ads, the results you get in Google Maps, the results you get in SEO, the results you get in LSAs are all connected. So some of the things that we learned from Google Maps, we also want to apply to our LSA. So one of the things is called NAP, name, address, and phone. I did a whole webinar on Google Maps and how to get up in the Google My Business. The name, address, and phone for your Google My Business listing has to be precise and has to be exactly precise everywhere on your website, on the Chamber of Commerce listing, on your bar association listing. Everything has to be exactly precise. The address, don't use suite and unit number and number in different listings. Everything has to be the same because, again, you're dealing with mathematical algorithms. You've got to feed the algorithm as much clarity as possible. So we see that getting Google reviews increases your LSAs, and working on your Google My Business, Google Maps, adding pictures, adding updates, all the things you do to increase your Google Maps optimization. Same thing in the local service ads. Add pictures, add as much information as Google will allow you to add, because working on one and thinking of it like an SEO algorithm is going to benefit the other one. And of course, answering the phone is going to be important now. I believe that now that Google's tracking how quickly you answer the phone, it's probably going to influence your overall SEO. And you wouldn't think that, but I believe that Google spreads this data across its different algorithmic platforms. And if you're not answering the phone and they're not going to send you any LSA ads, why would they send you SEO results? Because, hey, you're probably not going to answer the phone if someone does an SEO search. And the final thing, kind of summing up all this section, is what gets measured gets attention and gets results. So you need to develop programs like you see all of our tracking and all the effort we put into tracking and dispositioning these calls, advanced and booked when we do this for our clients. You need to have a program where someone in your intake department absolutely owns the LSAs. And my buddy Kevin in Indiana does an amazing job. Kevin, if you're watching this, whenever I have a peek into his local service ad back end, it's always incredibly clean. The leads are dispositioned. They're archiving calls, they're disputing calls, but he's on it like every single day. Another shout out to my buddy Brandon out of Virginia. I was sitting with him at a conference on a Caribbean island, and he was literally like in there while he was watching the presentations in his LSA all day, disputing, dispositioning, archiving, and booking the calls as his intake department talked to him. So you as a leader, I assume you're the leader, but if you're the working on the program, put together the tracking. Your boss will be impressed, or your staff will be focused, because what you measure gets the attention and gets the results. So with that, I'm going to wrap up. If you want help, like if you want us to take a look at your Google screen or look at your SEO or your Google Maps, if any of these things would be helpful, I'm going to pop the Calendly if Maria doesn't beat me to it. She's going to leave she'll put it in the chat, and you can just click on that one link and book an appointment with me. It'll set up a Zoom meeting for us, and we'll be happy to answer any questions. I'd love you for speaking opportunities, speaking recommendations. I spoke last week at the local bar association. It was awesome. We had like live people in a room again. And I spoke, I guess about 2 years ago now, before all this craziness, at the Virginia Trial Lawyers Association, met a bunch of great new friends and connections. And we've done work with a couple of those folks and connected them with all kinds of different leads and opportunities. So if you're watching this today, which is January of 2022, or even if you're watching it in, November or whatever, and you're a member of your local bar association, they're generally looking for speakers on these topics, and I'd love it if you'd give me a recommendation for that. And with that, I'm going to turn it over here and take a look at some of the questions, and we'll do some Q&A. Okay, so yeah, the question is how much to bid. And, as I mentioned, pretty much like if you want to be serious, you want to, and you have the budget, you want to max bid. So when you put in the amount, like put in $1,000 per bid, and Google will say like your market, the max bid is $275. Put in $275. You got to get in there every couple of weeks and tweak some of these things. And like I said, you should be in there, adding photos, and obviously you're going to be in dispositioning calls every single day. But the manager of the account should be in there just sort of checking on things, checking on practice areas, and sometimes they change the setup a little bit, so you just want to be in there checking things. And I would recommend the max bid. Question from Laura. Hey, Laura. Laura was at that conference where Brandon was doing all the dispositioning. When you mark, let me just do this. When you mark leads as booked, do you mark them as complete, or do you suggest adding a booking date? Yeah, if you have a booking date, you should add it. It kind of comes back to the algorithm. Like the more you feed Google, the better. But I think the term booking is inaccurate for lawyers. It's really for plumbers and accountants. But yeah, if someone books an appointment to come in on Thursday, put in the date. The more you feed, the more precision you give the algorithm, the more responsive you seem. I believe it will help you show up more. Have I used the review request feature within the LSA platform? So that is super valuable, and we've been recommending it. So like there's a link in your Google Maps, your Google My Business, where you can send the link out and send it out to your past clients or current clients and ask them for a review. There's a link right in the LSA program. And while this program's relatively new, and generally, like, for example, in the car accident cases, it might take, 6, 12, 18 months to resolve a case. So in the first few months, it didn't make sense to ask folks for reviews in the system, but now it does. So Laura and everybody else, I'd highly recommend it. Go through the reviews link. Once you complete a case, you should go through and do that. Okay. Question about confidentiality. Yeah, I mean, that's going to be an issue depending on your bar association, and disclosing to a third party. There is a case pending. I forget the state. One of the states is questioning whether these are leads and they fall outside of the criteria of the bar association, because you're not allowed to buy leads in some states. And so that case is pending. I haven't heard a resolution on that. And so some of these things are going to differ by state. Oh, thank you, Maria. She clarified for me. It's a good point. If you ask for reviews on the LSA platform, the review will only show on the LSA platform. If you ask for the same person to do a review on Google Maps, it'll show on Google Maps and LSA. So I don't know. I don't have a clear answer on that. Maybe that's my new trick question for my buddies at conferences, because I believe, like, if you put a review from someone who's like came through LSA and you ask them for a review and they put the review in LSA, I think that's worth its weight in gold in the algorithm. It's kind of like on an Amazon review. When you buy the book on Amazon, they ask you to do a review and then it says like verified purchaser. I think Amazon believes those reviews are more qualified because they know you bought the book. You're not just doing a review because you're a friend or doing someone a favor. So they know you bought the books. There's a better chance you're actually doing a review of the book. If they came in through LSA, Google knows that you asked them for a review in LSA, they clicked, they have their Google account, Google knows who they are because they have a Google account, then they do a review. I think the algorithm is going to feed you more bang for your buck. So I would still encourage you to get some of your reviews through that LSA platform. Thank you, Maria. Put the link for the Calendly in the chat. All right, Michael, nice to meet you. I don't believe we've met before. I'm in Chicago. It's super competitive for Google Screened. For about 2 months over the summer, I had the top spots, and now I'm down to 12 or 14. I don't know why. So I would say, a couple suggestions. One is, follow all the things that we went through here today. We'll be sending out a recording of this so you can go through it with your team and go through all the steps, get some of the tracking in place, make sure that you're answering calls, make sure there's no missed calls, make sure you're answering within 15 seconds, get a program to get 1 or 2 reviews. And it'll probably take, you're going to have to work at it hard for 2 or 3 months. This algorithm is not fast. It's not responsive. So unfortunately, if you fell out of the top 2 or 3, your calls have probably gone from like 200 calls to like 10 or 12 or 14 calls. So you're going to have to work at it. This algorithm takes time. Any changes you make, by the way, if you make changes to your account, like you change your bidding, leave it alone. Don't change it for like a minimum of 45 or 60 days. And same thing with any changes you make, getting more reviews, answering the phone. You'll get the results. I promise you, get the results, but it'll take some time. You're welcome, Michael. Okay. Question in the Q&A. Stephen, nice to meet you. If a phone system picks up a call and the listener's in the queue for the receptionist is listening to music messages, is that considered a picked up call within 15 seconds and eventually the receptionist will answer? I don't know definitively, Maria. I don't know if you have a better answer for that one, but what I'm gonna say is, as much as possible, you want to orient your team to answering the phone and then putting folks on hold. And if this is, so what I'm saying is, like, even though the system picked up and the person's in queue and the receptionist is on a call, you want to try and get her to be alert to the fact that there's a queue. Pick up the phone. Hey, thank you for calling such and such law firm. I'll be with you I'm just wrapping up a call. Just give me 30 seconds. And do try and transfer that call to an attorney and get back on the phone. So and remember that the artificial intelligence is listening to those call recordings. And so again, even if you pick it up, which is better than not picking it up with a live person, and put it on hold for 2 minutes, I believe that the algorithm knows that. And they know the difference between music and conversations. So it's gonna dock you some points. But I think the answer to that is, first of all, train your team on the importance of this, and then second of all, answer it. Hey Seth, another question in the Q&A. Would an automated phone system picking up an LSA call be considered an answered call? And I think that's the same question. And I think the answer is yes, it's considered an answered call. But if the person's still on hold for 2 minutes, Google knows. Like the artificial intelligence is listening to that call. They're not doing it maliciously or anything, but they're just trying to find out, like, are you super responsive? And even if, like, the answering system picks up the call and then you don't pick it up for like 45 seconds and the person hangs up, you're going to get killed in the algorithm. So important too. All right, well, I think that's all the questions for now. Maria, is there any I missed anywhere else? Let me know. And I'm happy to answer any questions. My Calendly link is in the chat, and the chat's going to go away. So go to if you'd love, I'd love to meet you. Even if you just want to have like a networking meeting and connect. I'm gonna put it in the chat again. Just click this link. You'll be able to see my calendar, book a meeting. Maria and I'll get on a call with you and answer your questions. And you can see she's my superstar on LSAs. And in particular, like some of the setup things, if you're having trouble getting approved, if you're having trouble getting the top 2 or 3, or if you have any other digital marketing questions, we're happy to help and love to talk to you about how we can help you with your business. So thank you for being here. Have a great rest of the year, everybody. And I look forward to seeing you on upcoming webinars.